A very good evening, aspirants. Welcome to Bajirao IAS Academy. So, today we will look into the most important news articles which are given in the today's The Hindu and Indian Express newspapers. Okay, so let's start. So, the first news article of today's discussion is recently the Rajasthan government passed right to healthcare bill. This is a first of its kind in any state in India. So against this bill, several private doctors have started protesting against this bill. So now we will look into this article, what the author says about the right to healthcare bill and what are the provisions of the right to healthcare bill which lead to the doctors protesting against the bill and how it will help the bottom and the poor sections of the society. Okay. So, as we already discussed, Rajasthan became the first state in India to pass a right to health care bill. So, this is very important, right to health care, because the right to health is not part of the fundamental rights as of now. Even right to education is also part of the fundamental rights under Article 21A of the Indian Constitution, right? So this bill allows a free access to outpatient and as well as inpatient services in all government and some selected private hospitals as well. Okay, so this is the major objective and aim of the bill. So ever since the bill has been passed, several medical practitioners, medical fraternity have started protesting against this bill. Okay, so they started protesting against this bill because this is a major assault on their business model. You know, we already know that now medical profession has becoming more and more a business model rather than service to the poor. So, if government has been uh, making right to health a fundamental right, or it is a right of every citizen of the state to get a free and affordable care in every hospital, then definitely it would impact the private medical practice. So therefore they are protesting against the bill. So before we understand the complexities, the author says that so there are several complexities in the bill. But before going into these complexities, let's just understand some of the facts and statistics about the healthcare situation in the state of Rajasthan. Okay, so a healthy state. Rajasthan is traditionally not a healthy state by standards. So it is generally considered as Rajasthan is not a healthy state in terms of standards because there are some reports. The reports say that what these reports say in 2012 a healthy states report and progressive India. Okay, so this is the report, and this report says that Rajasthan is placed in the 16th position out of 19 big states. So you can imagine the scale or the situation of healthcare in Rajasthan because it is in the bottom three in terms of a progressive, healthy India data. Fine. So also understand there are other statistics as well with regard to the state of Rajasthan. So remember National Family Health Survey, a most authenticated survey which comes out with the infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rate, child marriages, women who are suffering with the anemia, undernutrition, malnutrition. So this report also says that maternal infant mortality rate in the state and neonatal mortality rate so are stood at 30.3 per thousand live births and 20.2 per thousand live births respectively. So remember, what is an infant mortality rate? So infant mortality rate, uh, a number of child deaths per thousand childbirths, and neonatal mortality is also similar. So this is under 5 age children dying before, so dying before even they turn, even they celebrate their first birthday, right? So there has been a high prevalence of neonatal mortality rate and infant mortality rate. So this is not, I mean, 30.3 and 20.2 is very highest. uh, so this signifies that state lack the proper healthcare infrastructure. So state has deprived of a proper healthcare infrastructure, right? So, and apart from this, so it is also one of the state with highest levels of nutritional anemia. Remember, we have discussed uh, what is undernutrition. Undernutrition is child is deprived of essential nutrients, that leads to child stunting and child wasting as well. Okay, now child stunting is related to the uh, you know uh, so his height, a lower height compared to his age, and child wasting is a lower weight, so lower weight compared to his height. So this is child stunting and child wasting, and uh, in pregnant and lactating mothers and also adolescent girls, there has been a higher prevalence of anemia, right? Anemia is lower levels of iron in the blood, or lower levels of blood. So this will have a significant healthcare consequences for the woman, right? Because she still gives a birth to a child who is uh, malnourished, undernourished. Okay, and you can see the stark, uh, a very low patient doctor ratio in the state of Rajasthan also. So if you see the patient doctor ratio in Rajasthan, it is just 5 doctors per thousand, 10,000 population, in opposition to Jammu and Kashmir, in contrast to Jammu and Kashmir, where the state have 21 doctors per 10,000 population, right? So five uh, 5 doctors per 10,000 population is very low. So this also indicating that there has been a very low healthcare professional presence in the state of Rajasthan. Okay. So, with this dismal health picture, Rajasthan has Rajasthan. You know, we already discussed how dismal the health picture of Rajasthan in terms of the performance in improving the healthcare or providing the affordable and quality healthcare for the people of Rajasthan, right? So, in this backdrop, it is very important for the state of Rajasthan to formulate or to come up with such a bill, the right to health care bill. Okay, so this is what uh, 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 this article has been saying and justifying the bill by providing some statistics also. So now, in the backdrop of this bill, the state's medical fraternity have started protesting against this bill. Okay, they have started protesting against this bill. Now, earlier days, the medical profession is considered as one of the noblest profession. But now, as per official data, around 78 percentage of healthcare in India is now delivered by private sector itself. So this means the public healthcare presence is only just 22%. We all remember, we all know that the private healthcare sector is not affordable and not accessible also for all, and the high out of pocket expenditures for healthcare in India is also because of a large scale presence of the healthcare, the private sector in the healthcare. Okay, so the easiest way to make, so now the author has been suggesting that uh, the easiest way that everyone should get access to healthcare at affordable prices is to make is to bring in equality and justice. Equality and justice. And for example, if Rajasthan state government brought this bill, this ensures that equality in terms of rich or poor, wealthy, so anyone can get the proper treatment in private medical institutions and government hospitals as well. So this ensures equality and justice. And so yes, of course, it comes with cost because the physicians may not earn enough money. Now they are earning, so they may not earn enough money if government comes up with such a bill. So this is the main bone of contention for these medical professionals who are protesting against this bill. Even most of the protesters have a representation in Indian Medical Association. So Indian Medical Association members even threatened to continue the protest, or to launch a nationwide political protest. So because most of the members have a representation in Indian Medical Association. Uh, so in fact, the Indian Medical Association is also largely controlled by the regional political and a monetary clout. Okay, so the representation in the Indian Medical Council is largely controlled by these elements, mostly the private sector medical practitioners who own a large chain of private hospitals, right? Now, according to some information, there has been some information that before formulating the right to healthcare bill by the Rajasthani government, there has been a comprehensive consultations among the different stakeholders. So there has been a comprehensive consultation, and the bill also underwent a significant modifications from the original bill, taking into consideration everyone's concerns. Okay, so now the bill is not in the original form, and so it is not a bill designed without keeping stakeholders' interests out, because after considering all the stakeholders' interests, the bill was formulated. Okay, so now, so what are the main contentious issues for the protesting doctors? uh, there are few contentious issues for these doctors. Uh, they are uh, so any resident of the state will have the right to emergency treatment. So emergency treatment without paying, pre admission payment, right? So any individual can have, any resident of the state will have the right to emergency treatment care, so without the prepayment at all hospitals. So this was the main bone of contention for the present bill. Okay, so and so the anxiety of the doctors about this clause is twofold. There are two reasons, especially the emergency medical care free of cost. So one is who decides what classification of emergency medical care. What does the emergency medical care symbolizes? This is one bone of contention. And secondly, the bureaucratic and political control and even arm twisting when it comes to admitting or reimbursing the payment of these patients. For example, if the government has been making right to health care a fundamental right, or the right of the people of the citizens or the people of Rajasthan, that does mean that some private healthcare institutions will also be part of this program. So therefore, the government have to reimburse for the free medical care provided by the private healthcare institutions. So therefore, they have apprehensions regarding the bureaucratic and political control of the admission and reimbursements also. If government not made a timely reimbursement or timely payments, then it will be difficult for the private healthcare institutions to sustain themselves. So the author also saying that both apprehensions are justified. Yes, they are reasonable apprehensions, and they are justified, but they are not enough grounds to start a protest against such a bill, you know, which has been safeguarding the health of its citizens. So, but they are not enough grounds. to protest against such a fair and justifiable bill, right? So the anxiety and the frustration of the doctors in Rajasthan over a just patient friendly shows, I mean, how the physicians are far from the people. In fact, in a medical profession, every physician, every doctor need to be as close as possible with the patient in terms of the money they earn, in terms of the payment the patient made. But this shows that how far the patient and the doctor. So there has been a huge mistrust, right? So there has been a huge mistrust. So why this mistrust is because of, so see, there has been a high incidence of violence in the state of Rajasthan against doctors. Okay, so the author has been suggesting that if the state government comes up with such a bill which provides everyone the right to health and safeguarding their health, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for the doctors of Rajasthan to dose this mistrust to the extent. Okay, so this provides an opportunity for the doctors to douse this missed opportunity, and therefore the trust among the people of Rajasthan and the medical fraternity would further increase. So this is what this article is all about, and this article is justifying the government's right to healthcare bill and also suggesting the medical fraternity should not protest against such a fair and justifiable bill which safeguards the healthcare needs of all the citizens. Okay, so the next news article. So the next news article is losing steam. Recently, the World Bank have come up with a new report which has been saying that the global economic slowdown would have a major consequences on the world economy, but not just on the world economy, but also the emerging and developing economies. Remember, India is a developing and emerging economy. So let's see how the global headwinds will have an impact on emerging economies like India, and how India will steer this present situation so that India will achieve the sustained levels of growth rate. Okay. So World Bank, so global economic slowdown will make it tougher for India to achieve global growth ambitions. Remember, India have several growth ambitions. For example, by 2024 or 2025, if I'm not wrong, India will be a $5 trillion economy. Right, this is one of its growth objective. India also have several other growth ambitions. For example, achieving $1 trillion of export potential, and also doubling the agricultural exports uh, and IT exports. So creation of employment. So there are several growth ambitions for India. So, but the recent report by World Bank has highlighted that the World Bank report has highlighted that the faltering prospects for global economy, right? The global economy has been seeing the headwinds, so which further falter the economic growth. So the bank calculation says that global economy's potential growth rate, so the potential growth rate is the maximum rate of growth at which an economy can grow. So spiking inflation. Nowadays, the inflation has also been uh, increasing, not just in emerging economies but also in developed economies. Inflation has been rising manyfold. So this may limit the potential growth rate to 2.2% a year. So between now and 2030. So between 2023 and 2030, the potential growth rate would be just 2.2% because of the slowdown and the spiking inflation. Okay. Now, there are a series of overlapping crises from the past few years. For example, we already know that the COVID-19, the lingering COVID-19 impact on different economies. is one such reason, because COVID-19 led to the lockdowns, massive lockdowns in different parts of, and it also reduced the state's capability to invest in physical infrastructure and social infrastructure also, because of treatment provided to patients and procurement of vaccines. So it has significantly limited the state's capacity. So without a doubt, and after the COVID-19 pandemic, the world has also been facing the other crisis. The crisis is war in Ukraine. So war in Ukraine is another crisis. So because war in Ukraine, there has been a food crisis, fuel crisis, in not just in Europe, but in other parts of uh, the world, because the fuel resources are very limited. If fuel resources are further squeezed, then it will be difficult for the developing countries, developing emerging economies like India, because they are primarily dependent on energy resources for the economic growth. Okay, so the World Bank have shown all fundamental drivers of potential growth. So they are losing power. So they are now at the disadvantaged position, or they are now reducing themselves. So what are those fundamental drivers of growth? So they are, one is capital accumulation, right? In any economy, capital accumulation plays a key role in terms of production, in terms of supply chain resilience, in terms of providing economic growth and development, in terms of providing employment opportunities, and in terms of widening the tax base of any nation. So therefore, the capital accumulation has also been slowing down, and the growth in labor force is also losing its momentum. When an economy is unable to provide enough employment, then there will be a huge levels of unemployment. Countries like India, where they have a higher levels of demographic dividend, it is a particularly a concern, because higher levels of unemployment, we will not be able to sustainably use our demographic dividend, right? So the growth factor, the factors of productivity. For example, what are the factors of productivity? Labor is a factor of productivity. Machinery, technology, they are also factors of productivity. No, so technology, further many-fold improves the productivity capacity of any economy. So therefore, the growth of total factor productivity is also seeing a declining trend in recent past. So these are major concerns, and the bank also expecting that all of them to slow in further remainder of the current decade. So all of these three indicators, the factors of production, the low labor growth, and also the capital formation, will further decline in the coming years, right? So, if a financial crisis erupt in developing economies, for example, recently a bank collapse is in news in US. So, if a such a financial crisis erupt in major economies, so they trigger a global recession. So, recession is a term which used to indicate that there has been a negative growth of rate for 2 quarters. So this is a recession, and the global recession is not a good signal, a symbol for the decent revival of global growth or any economy. See how this negative growth of rate slowing global growth will impact the emerging market and developing economies. For example, India is considered as an emerging market and a developing economy as well. How it will impact the emerging markets such as India. So because these emerging markets have been trying to uh, fight against poverty, they are tackling climate change and other key developmental objectives, right? So what are the other key developmental objectives? So they are investing in human resources development. They are strengthening their productive capacities. When it comes to India, India has started the programs like Make in India, Stand Up India, Startup India, Digital India, and several infrastructure projects. India have also been fighting climate change. For example, India's the Panchamrit commitments, where and India has also been making a rapid strides in solar technology, solar energy production, wind energy production, and renewable energy production. So all these aspects, right? So from India's perspective, how we can see this report? So how we can see this report from the India's perspective? Okay, so from India's perspective, we can see this report in two ways. So first is that if imagine if global growth slows down, then there will be the likely that the demand for the energy will further decline. So if a demand for the energy declines in the global market, then the oil prices would certainly be declined. So if less oil prices certainly benefit in economies which are starving for energy. For example, India, which does not have energy significant energy resources, and 85% of our energy is we are importing. 85% of our crude oil needs we met through imports. So therefore, a significant decline in global crude oil prices will certainly benefit India, and it will help fuel India's economic growth. Secondly, the geopolitical tensions. So the geopolitical tensions and reduced openness to. So what are the geopolitical tensions? For example, the trade war between US and China, Russia-Ukraine war. So these are some of the geopolitical tensions and reduced openness to trade, and the policy uncertainty, protectionism, especially from the Western countries, will also make it tougher. Because see, if global economic growth slows down, then India's exports will also slow down. Now, domestic industry will also dependent on exports. So therefore, declining exports is also a not good indicator for India. So therefore, this article is suggesting that should strategize. Uh, Indian policymakers should strategize themselves to sustained economic reforms. So India need a sustained economic reforms. So that boosts the productive capacity of the economy. So the productive capacity of the economy, along with a better investment in better physical and social infrastructure. Social infrastructure includes investment in healthcare, education, skill development, vocational training, etc. So the physical infrastructure include developing roads, railways, and ports, right? So these factors would help India tide over the existing global slowdown. So this article is talks about the uh, coming global recession or global slowdown, and how this slowdown will benefit India. And okay, the next news article in today's discussion is about the Vaikom Satyagraha. This is a fight for social justice which took place in 1924 in Kerala, right? So Periyar E.V. Ramaswamy was the leader of this Vaikom Satyagraha. See, this Vaikom Satyagraha is very important for the examination point of view, especially the prelims examination point of view. So we will look into this article and what is Vaikom Satyagraha and what are the reasons for the launch of Vaikom Satyagraha, the objectives achieved by this Satyagraha. So this Vaikom Satyagraha was started in Kerala or launched in Kerala. This is a movement for social justice, right? So this is a movement for social justice. And so, many Indians usually connect this movement with Mahatma Gandhi, because there has been a participation of Mahatma Gandhi. There was a participation of Mahatma Gandhi also in this movement. So, going into the article, we will understand what was the participation of Mahatma Gandhi in this movement. But in Tamil Nadu, this movement, the Vaiko movement, is majorly associated with the Periyar. So Periyar E.V. Ramaswamy Nayakar. So he was a social reformer from Tamil Nadu, right? So he was also a Congress leader from Tamil Nadu during 1924s. So understand, so this movement is a social movement. This is a social movement. So, what are the reasons for the launching of this movement? Is because of this was launched in a Kottayam, a Kerala. Okay, it is because this is a temple entry movement. Um, this movement was launched in 1924, and this movement also symbolizes the centenary celebration of the Vaikom Temple Street temple entry movement. Okay, right. So this is a non-violent movement. Since this is a non-violent movement, Mahatma Gandhi also participated in this movement. You know, during he had convinced Periyar E.V. Ramaswamy Nayakar to uh, mostly confine this movement to within the specific region and don't make it an all India movement, and also make sure this movement is as peaceful as possible and ensure that it is a non-violent movement. So this movement um, is is against the prohibition which imposed on backward communities using roads around Vaikom Mahadev temple. Okay, so there was a Vaikom Mahadev temple in Kottayam, and this temple streets were prohibited for the backward classes. So, in opposition to this, the Vaikom Satyagraha was started by Periyar E.V. Ramaswamy. So, remember, so it was a prelude to the temple entry proclamation. Uh, See, in 1936, the leaders in Kerala, like uh, T.K. Madhavan, K.P.K. Savamenan, George Joseph, uh, on the advice of Mahatma Gandhi, uh, they have uh, issued a proclamation of temple entry proclamation. So, in opposition to this temple entry proclamation, a prohibition on the movement of backward classes was uh, taken into effect in Kottayam, especially the Vaiko Mahadeva temple. So, in opposition to this, uh, uh, Periyar E.V. Ramaswamy Nayakar. So, Periyar E.V. Ramaswamy Nayakar started this movement. So, he was a then president of Tamil Nadu Congress. Earlier, we have discussed 1924 to 1925. He was the president of Congress. Okay, so how Periyar's entry changed the course of the movement, because in fact the movement supported by the Kerala Congress Committee. So Kerala Congress Committee supported this movement against untouchability, right? So and this movement was launched on March 30, 1924. So there were three persons who there were three persons from the backward classes, so they were prohibited from entering into the streets of Vaiko Mahadev temple by the upper caste people. So therefore, in protest against such a prohibition, they have launched they flagged off this movement in this was a satyagraha launched this movement. So the protest was sustained. The protest was sustained itself for more than 1.5 years. I mean, uh, it's a long protest uh, uh, asking for the lower caste, backward classes of the society, their due rights. I mean, no discrimination, social justice. Okay, this was a very long protest, almost 1.5 year long protest. There were several arrests, and leaders are also jailed in this movement. Okay, so the Vicom uh, Kerala is see, this movement also resonated in Tamil Nadu. Okay, this movement is also resonated since even though the movement started in Kerala, this movement is also reflected in Tamil Nadu, Tamil society. So they ask for the social justice, they ask for the equality. Okay, now, see, this very struggle set India on the path of equality and justice for all. So, path of equality and justice for all back then. So, the title, Veerar, Vaikom Veerar, is title given to Mr. Periyar E.V. Ramaswamy Nayakar because of his contribution or his leadership to this movement, the Vaikom movement. He also known as Vaikom Veerar. So there's a possibility that you might get a question asking who is known as Vaikom Veera, a hero of Vaikom. So just remember this. So there were in this movement uh, uh, as part of protesting against the prohibition imposed on the backward classes to entry into the streets. There were day-to-day protests were organized. So arrests and inquiries and jail terms, agitations, attacks. So even Orthodox Hindu traditionalist groups tried to attack these protesters. And very one important aspect of this movement is Akalis from Punjab region also extended this support to this uh, Vaikom movement. They have come to Kerala and they try to supply food for the protesters during this movement. Okay, so this symbolizes how everyone standing up against the social injustice, caste discrimination, right? And even Mahatma Gandhi also negotiate between. So Mahatma Gandhi also negotiated between the protesters, Orthodox Hindu groups. Uh, Mahatma Gandhi tried to reconciliate between the different groups who are involved, who are part of this. He tried to convince the Hindu Orthodox group and protesters so that this could be settled in a more peaceful manner and there will be no more divisions within the society. So Gandhi insisted that it should be a local protest. So make sure it should be a local protest. It should not be a pan India movement, or also don't make it a pan India movement. Okay. So if it is a pan India movement, then the focus on Indian nationalism, Indian independence movement would be further made relaxed or flexible. Okay, even the government, the administration, the traditionalists have you know tried to attack these protesters, and in fact the rallies organized by them also marked by violent incidents, right? So remember this Sanchara. So right to Sanchara is just a free movement. So free movement of backward classes in the streets of Vaikom Mahadeva temple. The resolution for the right to Sanchara was defeated in the assembly. Uh, you know, so if what does this mean? If it is defeated in the assembly, that does mean that the backward sections have no right to freely move in the streets of Vaikom Mahadeva temple. So therefore this bill was defeated and open support, traditionalists extended open support and indirect pressure on the government. So since traditionalists extended open support and indirect pressure on the government, this right to Sanchara bill was defeated. So the Satyagrahis overcome the hurdles, and even Tamil went to participate in this movement. So they lent a helping hand to Keralites, temple entry for all communities. So, without a doubt, the author has been emphasizing that Tamil people have played a very crucial role in the Vaikom movement. So, the Vaikom movement symbolizes struggle for the untouchables, struggle by the untouchables, right? So this symbolizes the struggle by the untouchables. They were not allowed to freely move across the streets of the upper classes. They are not allowed to enter into temples. So they are treated as a second class citizens and they are treated as untouchables. And you can see the movement was started in March 30, 1924 and movement ended on November 23 and 1925. So a 1.5 year long movement. So 603 days movement. So the Sanchara resolution again. So once it was defeated earlier with the support of the traditionalists, the Sanchara resolution that was taken up for voting in assembly was defeated again in February 1925. This was defeated again by just one vote. Okay, so if it is passed, the Sanchara resolution is passed, the communities from the backward sections can freely move. I mean, freely walk in those streets. This symbolizes equality among the people, especially social justice for the backward classes of the society. So on November 23rd, the government of Travancore, the princely state, declared that people could enter three of four streets around the Vaikom temple. So, right, so the Travancore princely state. So once it was under the princely state, so this princely state declared that the people could enter the three streets of existing four streets. Okay, Vaikom temple. So bringing this protest to an end. So the objective of the protest was achieved because the decision of the princely state was in favor of untouchables or backward classes are allowed to freely move into the three streets. Okay, so the Kerala government now decided to commemorate not just the Kerala government, even the Tamil Nadu government also decided to commemorate the movement by organizing several cultural events because it is, I mean, the it is 100 years since the movement was organized. So therefore, both Tamil Nadu and Kerala will be organizing cultural events to commemorate this Vaikom Satyagraha. See, the Vaikom Satyagraha is more than just a name of a town. Vaikom is not just a town; it is a symbol of social justice. Right? It is a symbol of social justice, and it also symbolizes eradication of caste barriers. So it is a symbol of social justice, equality, and eradication of caste barriers. So that still burns bright in the history and social justice movement. So Vaikom Satyagraha is an example where people protesting for their rights, people protesting for the social justice of backward classes, to whom traditionally the rights were denied. So this is very important for the preliminary examination point of view, and UPSC mains paper one also. This moment is very significant, very important. Okay. So the next news article is uh, so recently the center has come out with a new notification making the customs duty exemption to the drugs import and other food products imported for rare diseases. Okay, so rare diseases medicine will be exempted from customs duty. So in this backdrop, let's look into the what are rare diseases and how this exemption will benefit individuals who have rare diseases. Okay, so see, here you can see here you can see the scenario of rare diseases in India. So from over 7,000 identified rare diseases, 95% do not have any FDA approved orphan drugs. So rare diseases generally, it's like a one or two in 1 million population. So they are very rare and they are also neglected. And for rare diseases, generally pharmaceutical companies neglect medicine for rare diseases. So rare diseases generally have medicine, but they are very expensive since very few pharmaceutical manufacturing companies produce medicine for the rare diseases. They are very expensive, and several medicines for the rare diseases India has been importing from other countries. So since they are expensive, the government has also been imposing 10% of customs duty on these medicines. So altogether making the medicines more and more expensive. So just understand, so 80% of the diseases occur at birth are genetic in nature. So most of the rare diseases are genetic diseases in nature, and most of these diseases, 80% of the people affect on their birth itself. So 50% babies born with rare diseases die within a year of birth. So they die within, for example, if they don't lack the financial capability, if they don't lack access to medicine, so then 50% of the babies will die immediately after their immediately after their first birth, or within a 1 year. So there are some estimates here. So there are some estimates here. 9 to 10 crore a number of people in India who suffer from rare disease. So this is 25% of global patients. India have a 25% of individuals with rare diseases. So number of people in Hyderabad, a population of 90 lakh who suffer from rare diseases. So 5.4 to 6.5 lakh people in Hyderabad out of 90 lakh have been suffering with rare diseases. So you can understand the scale of these rare diseases in Hyderabad. So 40% of the chances of error in diagnosis during a patient's first visit. For example, if a patient visits a hospital, a dispensary, so during diagnosis, there are chances that 90% of the chances that error diagnosis may take place. So with the error diagnosis, patients consider themselves as a person's infected with a rare disease. So, I mean, it takes a long time, gestation period, 4.8 years average time taken for the diagnosis of these diseases. Okay, so now, so 20 years is the maximum time taken to detect these diseases. So earlier we have discussed that that was an average time taken, and now this is 20 years. This is the maximum time. Some rare diseases. So these are some of the rare diseases. UPSC prelims also, you can see these questions. Which of the following are rare diseases? So thalassemia, sickle cell anemia, ataxia, so lysosomal storage disorder, congenital insensitivity to pain, and acquired aplastic anemia, muscular dystrophy, multiple sclerosis, Sweet syndrome, and pediatric cardiomyopathy. So these are some of the rare diseases. Please remember these rare diseases. Now let's get into this news article. I mean, what does this mean if a center reducing the customs duty on medicine imported for rare diseases? Okay, so drugs for rare diseases. So gets a customs duty relief. So center issues a waiver offer substantial cost saving for those in need of such treatments. Okay, so there will be a substantial cost saving for those who have been importing these medicines. So 11 drugs for rare diseases and food for special medical purposes. For example, a food which contains nutrition to the already deceased individuals is considered as a food for special medical purposes. So they are used for treatment of all. For example, this is the list of all the rare diseases. Okay, so there was a policy called National Policy for Rare Diseases 2021 are now fully exempt from basic customs duty. There's a national policy on rare diseases. You know, there are several children who are dying because of rare diseases, and there has been an increasing representations to the center government to reduce the customs duty on medicines imported for rare diseases, or make provision or encourage the domestic pharmaceutical companies to produce a medicine pharmaceutical for these rare diseases, so that the medicine will be accessible at affordable prices for the people who are impacted with affordable prices. Because see, in India there are several individuals who cannot afford these expensive medicine. Okay, because of these reasons, the mortality rate is more than 50% for a child within 1 year. So there's a drug called uh, pembrolizumab. So this drug is used for the treatment of cancer, and this is also exempted from the basic customs duty. Okay. So in order to get this exemption, so not everyone will get the exemption, but in order to get this exemption, there needs to be a certificate. So they needs to be, I mean, an individual needs to produce a certificate. Okay, certificate from um, a district health service, a district medical officer. They should show this certificate. So easing health costs, it will definitely ease the health costs of individuals who have been impacted with rare diseases. So this full exemption will be extended under this scheme. Basic drugs and special medical foods for personal use, and a certificate should be produced, issued by civil surgeon of the district. And drugs and medicine, see, generally, the center charge, uh, I mean, 10% of the customs duty. Okay, 10% of the customs duty on drugs, and some vaccines, life-saving vaccines, so they might be 5% of customs duty, or might not be no customs duty. Okay, so this cancer drug we already discussed, and there are some exceptions because now 11 drugs were exempted from the customs duty, but there is a disease, special muscular atrophy. This is also one of the more dangerous rare disease impacting several children. So this drug uh, is already exempted from the customs duty. Okay, because many representation were received seeking customs duty relief, so that, and other rare diseases also representations are submitted by the people to reduce the customs duty so that they can access drugs and can make them more affordable. So earlier we have discussed special foods. So what are the special foods? Let's see what are the special foods. The special foods required for the treatment of these diseases are expensive, often need to be imported. So these have to be imported very often. Okay, right. And food for special medicinal purposes is a food formulation intended to provide a nutritional support. So it provides a nutritional support to persons who are suffering from specific diseases. For example, if a person lack immunity, if a person is deprived of essential nutrients, he must need special nutritious food. So therefore, uh, the customs duty is also exempted for this special foods. There's some data, there's some interesting data that a 10 kg child, an estimated cost of a child with a rare disease, um, if a 10 kg, the cost might be from around 1 lakh to 1 crore per annum for this child, and this cost further increases with his increasing age, right? So with increasing age the cost will also increase, so therefore it is unbearable for the parents to cost bear this such a huge cost. So what are the advantage of this exemption? This result will substantially result in cost saving and provide much needed relief to the patients. So I mean, it definitely provides relief to the patients because it cost saving and will be more affordable, and exemption will make these drugs little cheaper, not too cheaper but little cheaper, so that parents can afford these drugs. Okay, so this is all about the rare diseases and the customs duty exemption for drugs imported for these rare diseases. So the next news article is ahead of tribunal's launch, the standard operating procedures for GST. So see, the Goods and Services Tax Act was passed in 2017. Okay, so this Goods and Services Tax is an indirect tax regime, a single tax for the entire nation. So this is a significant taxation reform. So GST Act 2017 also envisaged setting up of a GST appellate tribunal to resolve disputes regarding the GST filing, collection, etc. So in this backdrop, let's look into this article, what is GST and what is GST appellate tribunal, and how the composition of this GST tribunal. Okay, now see, so GST appellate tribunal. Uh, so This is a GST Council. There's an apex body, GST Council. The GST Council announced the constitution of GST Appellate Tribunal. So, what is the significance of this move? So, what is the significance of this move? So, it helped resolve the rising number of disputes under the GST regime. So, within the GST regime, the rising number of the cases will be resolved. So, it helped unclog the pendency of number of cases related to GST. So, in high courts, district courts, even in Supreme Court, there are several cases pending. If more and more number of cases are pending, that will impact the functioning and efficiency of the judiciary, and the cases will also not be resolved as quickly as possible. And in fact, this impacts the ease of doing business. It is very important to create a conducive climate environment and attract investments into the economy. So let's look into the legal provisions and composition and members. So legal provisions, as we already discussed, GST Council, the GST Act, the Central Goods and Services Act 2000 mandates for setting up of a Goods and Services Tax Appellate Tribunal. Okay, so this is a statutory body. Please remember, this is a statutory body. Even though the GST Council is a constitutional agency, but this appellate tribunal is a statutory body. So the composition of this statutory body, this will have a principal bench and followed by the regional benches, at least one bench in each state, right? And what are the composition of this council? So two technical members and two judicial members will be part of this council, so that the equal representation from the administration and judiciary will be provided. Okay. So in this backdrop, uh, let's first understand what this news article says. So Parliament clearing the decks for establishment of goods and services tax appellate tribunal. Now Parliament cleared setting up of this appellate tribunal for resolving rising disputes under nearly, this is a 6-year-old indirect tax regime, right? So now the revenue department under Ministry of Finance is under the process of setting this tribunal. So it has been designing and formulating the standard operating procedure. Standard operating procedure is set of rules, set of principles which should be followed by the officers undertaking intelligence and investigation. So there are several legal challenges, right? So legal challenges in terms of, for example, the dispute resolution, dispute investigation, and GST filing, etc. So there is a GST investigation wing under Central Board of Indirect Taxes. Okay, so this deals with policy issues relating to enforcement actions, seizure, search, and prosecution arrest in case of any fraud related to the GST. So over the past couple of years, so there are number of legal challenges. There are number of legal challenges under the GST regime. Okay, so I mean these uh, litigations have also been rising in different courts in different parts of the country. So absence of a dedicated GST tribunal will certainly impact the implementation of the GST Act, right? So I mean, since its launch in 2017, there was no GST regime. So it is hoped that the code will move ahead. So I mean, adoption of technology, a technological framework. So that a clear guidelines, online filing, virtual hearings, online submission, virtual tracking of matters will be taken up. Okay. So a pragmatic code will certainly help litigants. So I mean, a practical, more application-oriented code will certainly help the litigants resolving the disputes as quickly as possible in a faster manner. So according to an estimate, between 2021 April November 2022, overall 21,500 GST cases were booked. Okay, so entailing an amount of 1 lakh crores, but only collection is 6,200 crore. So setting up of GST appellate tribunal uh, will help resolving these issues as quickly as possible. So in this backdrop, let's also look into the GST. So what is GST? Goods and services tax is an amalgamation of central taxes. So indirect taxes. So it mitigates the double taxation cascading effect and make Indian products more competitive. For example, if Indian products are little cheaper and there's no cascading effect, there is no taxes on taxes, then certainly Indian products will be competitive in the international market as well as the domestic market. So, what are the benefits of GST? Let's look into the benefits of GST. So, the final price of goods. So, since there is no cascading effect, the final price of goods to be lower. So, relatively large segment of small retailers will uh, exempted from tax, so will suffer very low tax rates. They will face very low tax rates and will boost foreign investment, ease of doing business, generate more employment. So average tax burden on firms come down. Okay, so these are the taxes to be subsumed within GST. Okay, so these taxes are subsumed within GST. Please remember and make note of these taxes. What are the taxes which are subsumed under the GST? You may get the. Okay, the next news article is China's defense minister. He was a newly appointed defense minister for China. His name General Li Shangfu. So he was the first Chinese. He was the Chinese minister, and he is going to visit the SCO's meet in April. So April there will be a SCO defense ministers meet, and he would likely to attend the SCO defense ministers meet. See, Shanghai Cooperation Organization and G20 grouping are very important for the examination point of view this year because India is holding both G20 and Shanghai Cooperation Organization, so presidency. So in this backdrop, understand what are the member countries of Shanghai Cooperation Organization and why India's membership in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is very important. And in this backdrop, also understand the dispute between India and China over LAC, the standoff at the border areas. So we will discuss all these things in this article. Okay, so uh, this is the Shanghai Cooperation Organization map. So all these are member parties of Shanghai Cooperation Organization: India, Pakistan, China, Russia, and other CAR region countries. CAR is Central Asian republics, right? So they are called as CAR regions. You can see the member countries. Please try to remember all the member countries of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So it is not very important to remember observer states, but just go through these observer states as well. In fact, several observer states like Iran have been trying to be part of this Shanghai Cooperation Organization because Shanghai Cooperation Organization has been increasingly seen as a counterbalance to the NATO security alliance in the Western Europe. Right, the West led the security alliance. So therefore, even Saudi Arabia is also showing interest to join the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So in this backdrop, let's come to the article. So what is the significance of a general's visit from China to India? So this will be the first such meeting after I mean in Moscow 2020. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh and the then Defense Minister Wei Feng. So they held discussions, right? So, and also this will be the first meeting. This visit will also symbolizes the first meeting after first high level military visit from China after this LAC conflict. In Galwan clashes, 20 of Indian soldiers were died. So after that, this was the first high level visit from Chinese side to India. So there has been a conflict over LAC because of China has been building the dual use infrastructure. Dual use infrastructure is the infrastructure can be used both for the civilian purposes and military purposes. And China has also been building villages on their side of the LAC. In fact, there has been a border incursions and intrusions into the Arunachal Pradesh and LAC region, and Indian forces have strongly opposing their assertiveness and aggressiveness on the border side. So therefore, In fact, External Affairs Minister Jay Shankar also said that the resolution of the standoff in the eastern Ladakh is work in progress. So this is not a sudden process, but this is a work in progress, and we are working on this. And the past 3 years, a combination of military and diplomacy worked in a lockstep, made progress in this system. So, a combination of military effort and diplomatic, for example, military high-level talks among Indian and Chinese side, and regular diplomatic engagements would resolve this issue more peacefully. So, External Affairs Minister also saying that this issue has made certain progress in recent past. Okay, so this is not much important. The rest of this, he was appointed as China's defense minister and everything. So India, China are exploring holding a bilateral meeting between the two defense ministers. Okay, so this will be an opportunity for both the sides to understand each other's concerns and resolve the dispute as amicably as possible. In recent past, you can also see India is linking the border dispute with the bilateral ties with China. So, on the other hand, China has been suggesting that the border issues should not determine the bilateral relationship between these two countries. But India is very stern on this matter. India has been linking this bilateral issue with the border conflict. So China is willing to cooperate with the Defense Department and materialize all SCO member. So see, it is generally seen is a dominant position. China has a dominant position in the SCO summit, right? So Shanghai Spirit is a collective objective of the all the Shanghai Cooperation Organization members. So China is willing to conduct high-level exercises, education and training, military inspections, and other fields, thus contributing to building closer community with a shared future. Okay, so they continue to build a closer communication community with shared future. Right? There's a RATS structure, regional anti-terrorism structure within the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So this help combat the terrorism like incidents, radicalization, extremism. Right? In Rising India Summit, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar held that uh, uh, the resolution of the standoff still unfinished. It is still unfinished work, and still it is in the process. And there are places where we have forward deployments. So within the border, there are few places where we have the forward deployments. So this is what External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has been saying. So in this backdrop, so let's look into the border conflict, the areas where India and China have differences. So this is LAC, line of actual control, and this is Pakistani side. This is uh, line of control. So now this LAC, this Aksai region is under the Chinese control since 1962 Indo-China War. So this is the LAC region, and this is Pangong So Lake, where the standoff between forces has taken place. And just remember this. And here, this is Galwan. So heavy deployment of security forces in this region by the Indian side, right? Now, the next news article is ISRO releases images of Earth captured by its Earth observation satellite, right? So this is an Earth observation satellite 06. Now, so this satellite was launched by, this satellite was launched by ISRO on board PSLV, PSLV C-54. Just remember this in this entire article. This is important. PSLV C-54 on board PSLV C-54. So along with 8 nano satellites in November 2016. Okay. Now every satellite have applications. For example, observation, uh, sea surface temperatures monitoring, sea level rise monitoring, and identifying the potential fish zones. All are the objectives of these satellites. So in this backdrop, also look into the objectives of the Earth observation satellite zero 06. So EOS zero 06 provides continued services of OceanSat 2, right? So and it monitors sea surface temperature, and there's a scatometer. So this just analyzes the color of the oceans, and this observe the ocean color, sea surface temperature. See, in the backdrop of increasing global warming and climate change, it is very important to observe the sea surface temperatures, because sea surface temperatures driving the El Nino, La Nino, which will have major impact on the global uh, wind system, the currents. I mean, the ocean currents and the wind system. So therefore, observing the sea surface temperatures is very important, because increasing the intensity of the cyclones, right? And meteorological applications also, for example, weather forecasting, disaster preparedness, etc. And this will also help identify the potential fishing zone, and using chlorophyll. So SST, wind speed, and land-based geographical parameters. So this EOS zero 06 certainly have multiple applications, right? Ranging from the observing the sea surface temperatures and monitoring the color of oceans, and land-based navigation, along with identifying the potential fishing zones. So in this entire article, this is very important, the applications and EOS satellite, right? So this is all for today, and thank you so much.